You know, people throw around the word legend a lot these days, but I consider all three of you legends. So I'm thrilled to be sitting with you, and I really wanted to gather us all to talk about Cats, the JELLICLE Ball. Now, because Junior, of course, you are a legend of the ballroom scene, and you are such a burst of authenticity in the middle of this production. And Ken, you are a Cats legend because I saw you in the original company in 1982. You were McCavity. And Andre, you're just Broadway legend, full stop. Tony-winning Broadway legend.
I'll take that, yeah.
Junior, how do you feel starting on Broadway? Was Broadway ever something that you even imagined would enter your life?
No, nor did I anticipate it. It's a gift.
Yeah.
And because it's a gift, I receive it with honor and respect because I was guided to meet the Broadway deity, Mr. André De Shields. So that was my universal approach.
You never crossed paths before?
No. First day of rehearsal for Cats, the JELLICLE Ball is when we met. And I might say it was love at first sight, but it took a while for us to share it.
You don't have to like throw the love on each other right from jump.
Right.
But there's a reason, and I would like to explain it concise. He is a man of color, and he is Broadway. I am a radical man of color, gender non-conforming, and I'm ballroom. I held my first mic in an after-hour spot. Now I'm on Broadway with a man that had spoke on stages throughout his entire life. At a point when I wasn't able to afford to see him, I stood outside the theater to hear his voice, along with his co-star Stephanie Mills. So for the universe and my ideology to be presented to him in a room, I was overwhelmed like, oh, this is only gonna be for 2 weeks. It was a pleasure to meet you. Let me know how it goes, and I was out the door. That was my radical thought, like, why am I going to be here? And here I am.
You were joining the House of LaBeija, I think kind of saved your life at that point in time, right? And around the same time, you were on Broadway having
doing The Wiz.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you used that word because I want to refine it.
Okay.
The House of LaBeija did not save my life. They enhanced my life. And the parable that I often use, if you see the 10 Commandments with Charleston Heston, his mother sent him to Egypt to be saved. When I decided to be an openly gay youth, the God of my understanding sent me to the House of LaBeija, where I was going to be, as you just said, saved. Because it was my intentions to be a full-fledged woman, but I didn't want to be a poor black woman. So the House of LaBeija and its camaraderie and freedom of speech and expression was excellent for me.
That was around the same time Andre was sort of having a huge Broadway triumph and your career was really taking off. It's so fascinating to think of where you all were at the same. Ken, when did you come to New York?
I came to New York in 1982.
Okay.
I was driven by this man because of The Wiz and because of Ain't Misbehavin'. My dance teacher actually introduced me to those records, and we were doing jazz dance in the studio, and I was doing it to The Wiz and Ain't Misbehavin', and I thought, that's what I want to be. I want to do what he's doing. And so to be here sitting on this couch, I just told him it's just a euphoric feeling. My career has been standing on his shoulders, and now here I am sitting next to him.
Have you ever crossed paths before? And I know Ken Page, your Ain't Misbehavin' co-star, was in the original Cats with Ken.
Yes.
And playing your role now. I mean, there's so many Broadway
Well, I'm actually playing his role because Ken Page,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
created the role on Broadway.
Yeah, Old Deuteronomy.
Of Old Deuteronomy. So I'm Old Deuteronomy Redux, but there are celebrity judges in the show, and they are part of the preamble long before you meet Old Deuteronomy. I'm in my dressing room getting ready for my entrance, so I don't get to see who the celebrity judges are until I walk the runway. So this night, I'm on the runway, And I recognized this rather larger-than-life body sitting in the judge's seat wearing his white suit. And as I get closer to him, I go, oh, that's Ken Page. And I'm playing the role that he created. So tonight, dear God, let me not make any mistakes.
Wow.
Because there he is. Here I am.
Yeah.
He's judging me according to what he created.
And how did that go for you?
It went very well. It went very well. After the fact, we met in the lobby, and we hugged each other, and we cried, and he said, I forgive you. I said, thank you.
I love that.
Yeah.
Junior, you're playing Gus, the theater cat, which is a role I've always loved. Gus. Gus is a real theater character, and I love that you're new to the theater. It's so exciting that you have this showcase moment, and you get to see all the kids, all the kittens, right, around you, sort of looking up to you. What is it like to be center stage doing a moment like that in a theatrical production?
It's a shift, because I do the same thing as the master of ceremony for Ballroom. I'm able to influence the audience as opposed to the audience being influencing me. And the correlation is that following the storyline of today, 2026, Gus is gender non-conforming. When you look at Gus, you see the beautiful man that is displaying his femininity to let you see, had he been given the opportunity and the correct passage to feminization, I would have been a beautiful woman. However, in the social climate that I'm in, I am letting everyone know that through me, the Immaculate Conception through which Deuteronomy gave to me to give to the kittens, everything within me I gave to each kitten. For example, Deuteronomy enters our sacred space. Everyone is there to meet and greet him, some for the first time. But these are my children from him. So he has to be reminded that McCafferty is our daughter. Rumtugga could be our grandson. Grisabella could be our daughter. Rumble Teaser and Monkey Shrub and Mungo Jerry and Baby and Tumble Brutus are all of the children that I had to teach and discipline and nurture in a discipline that I could not have because I was his concubine. And the other beauty about it is that the humanity and the family values and the culture and tradition that is placed. My daughter McCavity is a full dose. Her father has mercy and kisses her and tells her to go. He takes on the responsibility that I own this, I'm responsible for this. Very good of you. However, I want to be young again. And had Grisabella not been there, I would have been the angelical choice, or I'd have pulled Deuteronomy's whiskers off his face. So what happens is, he consoles me to know you're not going to go, but you know why. We're going to send our daughter back, Grisabella. That's why when you see throughout different parts of the play, I'm making gestures. They're not just hand movements, but I'm telling my children, come, do the hand movement, do the arm movement, do the vogue, do the realness, but at the same time, respect your father's presence. And that's what I'm glad that the audience grasped with Gus the theater cat. Oh, he has a position in this version of the play. I've heard theater goers say in conversations since our PAC performance, you know, until you, I never understood Gus. Now I understand Gus. So they understand the ageism, the rebirth, the revitalization, the restoration, and that nobody wants to be forgotten. It's not that we're scared to be old, but don't want to be forgotten.
I simply want to say, Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber, I hope you are listening, because Junior LaBeija just revealed some storytelling that all of the individuals from the original company had no idea was in the body of Cats.
Well, it's wild because this show is fascinating to me because I fell in love with it as a kid and just loved it for what it was. And over the years of discussing it with actors, performers who've done Cats, and I've learned about all of these character relationships that there's all this backstory, and some of it feels like fan fiction and all of this extra stuff. And then you get to see this production, which just cracks it open in completely different ways. And it's like, who knew that Cats had so much to chew on, right?
Well, obviously, the denizens of the ball culture knew.
Yeah.
And now this intersection between history and evolution is the first opportunity that we could inspect and discover and embrace all of that. We are now leading the social revolution of the 21st century.
Ken,
Yes.
as someone who lived through the original phenomenon, I mean, when this show opened originally, it was touching people in its own way. And then you got to experience the JELLICLE Ball as an audience member. What is it like sort of merging those worlds together for you?
When Cats first came out, I was just arrived in New York. I was very confident. And I listened to the show and I thought, I'm going to do that show. I did it for a year and it was amazing. And I did 3 Andrew Lloyd Webber shows. They brought it back in 2016.
Right.
And I went to see it and I was so disappointed because they didn't do anything to it. It was a museum piece. And when you bring a show back that is as iconic as this is, you have to do something with it.
Yeah.
So when they said they were bringing Cats back again, I crossed my arms and I was like, what are they going to do with Cats? Oh my God. And I literally said, does everything have to be so gay? And then I went and saw it in the theater and I thought, yes, yes it does. And I cried like a baby for many reasons. The first reason was, it was the first thing that brought me back downtown. I lived downtown across the street from the World Trade Center when 9/11 happened and was blown from my apartment. I hadn't been downtown since Cats.
This theater literally is across from the footprint of
Yes.
the tower.
And where I looked out of my window every day on the 24th floor in South Gateway Plaza. So that was one thing. The other thing was, they made a story where one didn't exist. They created these characters that were, we were all these characters as well, but we didn't have these relationships that that are created now. I was a judge twice, and then I came back and brought friends the third time that I saw it. I think I saw closing night. Every single time, I was just in the audience, like crying my eyes out, going, this is amazing what you guys did with Cats. I never for a second thought I would be doing it. Then I got a text one morning saying, Cats is going to Broadway. I was in California where I was, settling in. And I thought, oh, let me write Andrew Lloyd Webber, because I have his email. And let me write to Bill Rausch, because my husband had his email. And I just started, I didn't get out of bed. I got that text and I just started writing letters. And then a day or two later, I got a letter back from Bill Rausch and Zaylen, and they're asking me for material. So I sent the material of me performing, because I'm still performing as a jazz singer and cabaret artist. And they said, come in for an audition. And I thought, if I go in live, they're going to hire me. Lo and behold, I manifested myself back into Cats, and I've been on cloud 9 ever since. I think it's the most beautiful show ever.
And Andre, I think about all the shows I've seen you in over the years. Many times you were the only black actor in the company. And now you're going to the Broadhurst Theater every night with this beautiful company of black and queer and so much representation there. What a beautiful journey for you.
Yes, absolutely. One of my mantras is, when destiny knocks, open the door. I come from a large family. I have 10 siblings. And I was always considered the crazy one. Because whenever I would speak about what I wanted to do with my life, I would say things like, I'm going to be a Broadway star. And they would say, oh. But I always wanted to be a North Star for people of color, because we have been told for so long that we don't deserve, that we can't achieve. And even when we do achieve, we have to work twice as hard for half as much. Even when I had the opportunity to create the role of the Wiz in 1975, Broadway was still an inhospitable terrain for not only Black audiences, but for Black actors.
Yeah.
And now, I'm in the history books, studied by people who want to be dancers, who want to be actors. Well, one young man said to me, if you had been there, you would have seen a Black man blush. He followed me into the role of Hermes in the British version of Hadestown. And when he was interviewed and asked, how do you feel about assuming this role? He responded, André De Shields is our Beyonce. He says, so many young, colored, queer boys who have dreamed but never thought that their dreams would come true now have someone to look at and say, it is possible.
Do you think about the young Black queer kids that can come into the Broadhurst Theater and or don't know they're queer kids, sitting there and experiencing this and the kind of impact? Do you think about that at all, or are you just doing the...
I think about it.
Yeah.
I think about it every day.
And they do know they're queer.
Sure.
They just don't know where they belong
Right.
until they come to the theater and see themselves. And it is a revelation when you finally understand, oh my God, I'm not the only one. There are others like me. There is a place for me in the world. And that changes your entire future.
I discovered it when I was in high school, when my jazz dance teacher brought The Wiz to school and Ain't Misbehavin'. People discovered it for me when I was in Smokey Joe's Cafe. I still get people saying, oh my God, when I saw you in Smokey Joe's Cafe, I knew what I wanted to do. So it's amazing to have that history. And speaking of Gus, the theater cat, he sings about, in his song, he says, I once played the Rumpus Cat. Well, in Cats on Broadway, the original company, I played McCavity, Plato, and the Rumpus Cat. So every night he sings about that, I get this chill that, oh my God, he's singing my history.
I would like to add from the ballroom perspective and to bring it front and center now in 2026. I was in my dressing room and I was listening to Josh Groban's Gem CD, and a particular tune came up and it encapsulated exactly what I'm experiencing now. And for the youth, before you can fly, you must fall. You do not have to go through a perceived door. I did not go through a perceived door. However, I am known in the ballroom culture as Junior LaBeija, the shady and fierce and opulent OPULENCE. But in my ancestral, from my father and my Cherokee and Black Sioux Indian heritage, I am a PhD dropout. I call it alternates. We all have them. I get up every day and I look around the room and go, which one are you going to be today? When you hear about the Titanic, you always hear about Rose and the Irish immigrant who stayed in the water and froze till he went down and she stayed up. But the true story is the owner of Macy's and his wife was on the Titanic. And he had proceeded to put her on the lifeboat and he was going to stay. And she decided to get into bed with her husband and allow the freezing waters to consume them. That is life affirming. That is the true essence of till death do us part. And that's what I grasped through this revisioning of this play.
Give me your hand till death do us part.
Yes.